personally introduce myself, Marjorie Fairchild. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Community Boards. And I've been working here for a wonderful year, even through all of the trials and unexpected pitfalls of a global pandemic. I have really enjoyed meeting so many of you and having the opportunity to learn about the legacy of this organization. And thanks Cynthia in particular, because we've had a great time creating this event and talking about other things as well. So thank you all for being here. I feel like I've gotten to know Chuck through creating this event with Cynthia. And I want to just thank you all for being here and pass this on to Darlene Wide, our executive director. And also just let everybody know, if you could stay on mute when you're not talking, that's just helpful for the speaker. And I'm going to be posting again in the chat. We have a sort of informal speakers list, and I'll post that in chat now. If you are not on it and you would like to speak, please post that in chat and we'll add you to it. So I'd like to pass this to Darlene.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's really great to see everyone. Hey, Terry. Hey, Karen. Kathleen Coogan, who is here on the screen, and I just finished, like literally a few minutes ago, a class that we co-teach at Georgetown, a mediation class, and we had a great time and taught everybody about the community mediation model, and it was just super, super fun to be passing the torch to a new generation of people. And of course, none of this could happen without Chuck. He was so much a part of the history of community boards, and what we do today is really a large part to his legacy. And so it is an honor and a pleasure, and our duty to honor those that have come before. And he was just a super special human being. I think we can all agree that Chuck was a special man, a very special man. And if you would be so kind, Marjorie, as to give me some screen sharing capacity, I would love to share something with you. I am thrilled that community boards will continue to honor Chuck with this development of the Regal Pet Mediation Program. And it is one way that we can continue to hold him in our hearts. And it is one way that we can continue to honor him and to, what else can I say? To cherish his sweetness and his kindness and his compassion and the values that he brought to his work and to community boards. And so we now have the Regal Pet Mediation Program. The tagline is resolving pet disputes with care and compassion. And I want to have a big shout out to Ms. Fairchild, who is, as the community engagement coordinator, is really doing an incredible job getting the word out to a host of family dog rescues and pet stores and the SPCA and people and dog walkers and people who care about animals. So if you would like to, this is on our website. If you go to resolution services, you can take a look. And I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Darlene, you're on mute by accident.
Oops, sorry. I just want to say that that when I think about Chuck, I think about a person who wore a lot of different hats and was completely humble in the way that he wore his hats. He just wanted to serve. He just wanted to be helpful. And when I started working at community boards in the end of 2007, I have this memory of him just kind of appearing in the office, kind of out of the blue, with his sweet smile. And he would just kind of lean in and he would say, how can I be of help? How is everybody doing? You all do such great work. You work so hard. And he would be just super supportive and so validating. And he just wanted to help. And so, whether he wore a hat as a donor or a hat as a mediator or a facilitator or as the director of neighborhood services, he was a co executive director. He was a case manager. He did it all with the spirit of service. And I just wanted to acknowledge how precious and how much we will miss him. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, Marjorie and Cynthia and Selena, to share my memories. And I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you and to see all of you today.
Thank you so much. And as I said before, we do have a speakers list because there's a lot to be shared. And before we do that, would love to just go around and briefly say your name. And I'm really curious, and I don't know if everybody here knows each other, but I want to know how you were affiliated with community boards, when, and also how you knew Chuck. So I'm the newbie, so I'm going to forgo this. I would love to start with Cynthia.
Okay. I started with community boards in the, Jim, what was it, late 80s, mid 80s. In mid 80s in Monterey, actually. I was the area coordinator, and Jim and Ken came down to teach our first group of community mediators. And then later on, I ended up marrying the teacher. What can I say?
That would be me, not Ken.
That's right.
Community boards love story.
Right. And of course, later Jim and I moved back up to San Francisco, and that was in about 1986. And that's when I really got to know Chuck more on a day-to-day basis, where as before I had just known him as one of the co-trainers, and I took the T for T and so on and so forth. And Chuck has always been there in the back of my mind. He's always been there as a stalwart part of everything that went on in the neighborhood programs. And we did everything. Terry and I used to laugh about what we did, knocking on people's doors, doing the outreach. Anyway, so we go back to the mid 70s.
Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. Why not follow my sweet wife?
Please say your name.
Jim Halligan. I started volunteering at community boards in about 79 or 80, something like that. And I did some contract training with Ken and Roz Lash, and then I came on board as a staff trainer, I believe in 86, something like that. That's a guess. And I was in that position till 2000. So.
That's great. Ken, I'm just going to go around how I see you on the screen.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Ken Hawkins. And I actually started, it was among the first staff people that ever started with community boards. And I started, I think around August 9th, 1977. And when I was there, Chuck was one of the first people. I mean, of course, it was the staff at that time were people like Ray Schoenholtz, Maisha Jenkins, Bruce Thomas, and of course, Chuck was a part of an institution called St. Kevin's, and he was involved so much, it was hard to separate him from any of the staff people. So he was sort of among the first people, he was among the first group of people that I met, and he stood out because he was just there. And as was said, he had such, and I'll say more about him, but he had such a giving and compassionate heart. I mean, he was so supportive, and sort of like whatever you needed, he was willing to do it, and willing to help you. The other thing that was just some sort of outstanding with him is that, of course, community boards is a conflict management organization. And so we're going to get conflicts. And of course, the organization itself had conflict issues, because that's the nature of the beast. And but Chuck was one of those people that just brought so much peace and calm to all of us. And so he was just really, he was just, as was said, a very special person with all kinds of compassion, and took his conversations with everyone very seriously. Like, he really exemplified the values that community board stood for. I mean, he was validating, he was supportive, he was caring, he was compassionate, he had time, he put things out of his mind so he could talk to you. So, you became the most important thing on the planet at that time when you were talking to Chuck. So it was just a nice, he was nice that way. So he modeled a lot for us. So yeah, he was, as I said, he was there from the beginning for me. So yeah.
And we are just going around doing a quick introduction, sort of icebreaker right now, because we're going to get to circle back and have more of a moment where people can speak. So I'm just going to go around. Welcome, Terry. I see that you're next. If you can unmute, we're just doing a quick introduction so everybody knows who everybody is.
Hi, I'm Terry. I joined boards in 2004. And Chuck was definitely one of those who opened the door and just was very special and welcoming. And I've done a advisory board and been active since 2004. And I won't say more because we all need to go around, but I will say that to me, Chuck epitomized the heart of community boards. Very modest, very kind, very welcoming.
Thank you so much. And Terry Amsler, welcome.
Turn off, remember to hit my mute button. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or evening, depending on your time zone. Pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to see many of you who I don't see too often. Some of you I don't know, I think. Let me make sure, because I just joined, I was in the midst of grading. Is this a time when I should say something about Chuck?
I know we're just doing a quick
That's
round
right.
of introductions.
Yeah,
We'll circle back to the speakers list, definitely.
Terry Amsler, I used to work
Thank you
at
for asking.
boards a long time ago.
Judith.
I'm visual, not verbal. I was back in community boards, God knows how long ago. And I was just a counselor. I wasn't the staff. And I worked in the Mission District. I worked with Latino youth. And Chuck was there for everybody at all times, period.
Thank you. Linda? We're not sure if there we are.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted, thank you.
Yes, if that was that Judith Sandoval? Or different Judith?
It was Judith Sandoval.
Yes, well, she remembers when she was there at the beginning. I would remember because we were there at the same time. I was mostly a volunteer who sat on panels, and I also had training for trainers. So I did some training as well. And 1987 rings a bell somehow. So anyway, Chuck was always there and so comforting and kind, and just, I can't believe he's gone, because I would have thought he was always there. So that's all I'll say for now.
Thank you. Selena.
Hi, I'm Selena Lowe, and I'm so glad to see everybody, faces from a long ago and new faces that I don't know. I mean, I think it's a testament to community boards and people who love Chuck. So it's so wonderful to see everybody. I got started in 91, and that's when I first took the mediator training, and then I joined did the T for T and was one of the trainers, and largely just because there were so many great people there, I just kind of wanted to do what they wanted to do. So it was just a really wonderful time. What else? What else did you want to know? Just when we started, 91, and then and how do I know Chuck? I was a volunteer, and for a time I also worked at community boards. This is when they were on the Market Street address. And I did public relations and marketing, and I did some case coordination, and I worked alongside Chuck. And so he was just a great mentor, friend, everything.
Thank you. Krista.
Sorry. Hi, I did an internship with Chuck and Rita at the Visitation Valley office in 85, 86 for 2 semesters. And that just got me hooked to I got to experience the mission in action at community boards, and I was so inspired. I went on to get trained as a mediator and a trainer, and later was on the staff from 95 to 2000 in the training department. And Chuck, oh man, just such an incredible human being, and a tremendous role model for all of us. And as has already been said, an embodiment of the mission of community boards, for sure.
Thank you. Tor. You're on mute.
Okay, I should be on mute now.
You're good.
Okay. Wow. I'm actually blown away. I'm seeing people I haven't seen in years. Terry Amser, Krista, Selena. I've been with community boards when I was 14. That was like my first job, so I dealt with them in Visitation Valley. And then when they moved over to Market, I was there as well. I became staff. I took the training and everything. I went through everything pretty much there. Chuck was always I will say that he was always a positive person. If you did something good, he was always a good man. He's like, good man, you know. I have fond memories of him. But like I said, I've been around for a minute, and good to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while.
Thank you so much. If you want to say something more, let me know. I can add you to the speakers list.
Okay.
Sure. I am going through, we haven't heard from Karen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm a newbie to this group, like Marjorie. I am the programs director for community boards. Came on board with my training in 2014, and I'm now a co-trainer for the basics of mediation and beyond the basics, a new program we came up with. And so it's nice to see everybody. And when it's my chance to speak, I'll speak to how I got to know Chuck in one of my in various roles there. But I want to again thank you all and welcome. Glad to see everybody.
Thank you. Shelley. Oh, Shelley, you're still on mute.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Wait, try one more time.
Mute. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So I believe I was starting in the late 80s and was in the early 90s. The people I knew who are here are Selena, who remembered me and invited me. And I remember Krista very well. And I remember Judith Sandoval. And I remember Cynthia and Tor, you know, so there was just, it's kind of a blast from the past just to see people's faces and their names. It's like, oh, I just remember, you just start popping on all these other names and faces that aren't here today. But, I was just on panels and did, some trainings, was part of a cultural diversity group we had. The special feeling I have for Chuck is that I lived nearby where he lived. So when we were on the same panel, he would always drive me home because I didn't have a car. And so he would always drive me home, and it was always fine with him to drive me home. And I saw another side of him in the car when he would drive me home, because he would sort of let down his professional mask, and he would just be admitting like, man, that was tough. I just remember the sound of his voice, because in panels, he was always so professional and very grounded and sincere. And, everybody loved Chuck, and he was a mensch, and so he was, but in the car, I just remember him and he would typically admit like, wow, that was tougher than I expected. And yeah, these people were difficult, and, I didn't know how we're going to get through that one. And it was sweet to just see his, a more vulnerable side of him. And he would always talk about his cat. And he just loved his cat. I think he had more than one cat. I'm not sure, but all I know is he loved the cat like it was his like partner in life or something. I mean, he would talk about his cat like it was his partner, and how he was thinking about her. And, it was just, he had to get home to her. And it was just sweet to see this personal other side of him in the car home. But really, professionally, he was what you used to call a man with character. He just had a masculine sense of presence and authenticity. He was he was just a good man. He was such a good man. And I think it was just the kind of person like you never forget. Like, I don't know, it's been years since I thought of Chuck Regal, but, as soon as Selena, told me about it, was like, oh my God, of course, Chuck Regal. So anyway, so thank you for arranging this. This is very sweet. And, there's so many people who've died, and, we could do this for everybody really, but I'm glad it was Chuck. He's the kind of man you want to celebrate. He was a do the right thing kind of guy.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Wayne.
Oh, hi everybody. My name is Wayne. Most of you might not know who I am, but I think all of us, we have something in common because we lost someone we love. I met Chuck a number of years ago. He was my trainer, and I met him at different social events, and he gave me a lot of great advice on how to be a great mediator. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Wayne. Deborah.
Hi, I'm Deborah Varner. I'm actually a board member currently, and I wanted to welcome you all. And I learned so much from you about the past history of community boards. I started mediating with community boards around 15, 16 years ago. So I've been around a while too, but not as long as you have. So I really welcome you, and I'm so glad you are still part of community boards, because it's so important for us to know the legacy and continue on. And with Chuck, I mediated with him several times, and he was just sweet. That's all there is to it. He was just the nicest person, and I really wanted to be the kind of mediator that he was. So thank you all again for being here.
Thank you, Deborah. Kathleen and Kevin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for including us. It's so nice to see so many familiar names and faces. We were trying to remember when we started at community boards, I think maybe 2003 or 2004. And so many, the thoughts that so many of you have shared really resonate with us. I wanted to note in particular that Chuck was very proud of the International Visitor Program. Community Boards was receiving a lot of international visitors, and he was so proud telling me about different lessons that he had learned from people that had come from around the world. And I think I also, when I think of Chuck, I also think about how I feel like he really taught me to try to slow down and to really be compassionate in my presence with others. And so I think along those lines, I'd like to also say that, like a few of you have already said, we definitely agree with the fact that he embodied a lot of the values and reflected the heart and soul of community boards.
Thank you. Kevin, did you want to say something? Okay. Mac, hi.
Hi, I'm Mac McGilvray. I took the training in 2004 with Tracy and Chuck. And so I've kind of been around since then.
Thank you so much. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the time, but since we are already, it went so fast, but it's so lovely hearing everybody's stories and having everybody in one place. And I want to sort of segue into the tribute section of our event. And Cynthia, did you want to, I have posted our list in the chat. I'm going to do it again. Here we are, just give me one moment. But I can facilitate this. It's okay, let's see. And we're gonna circle back to Jim. You're the first on our list.
Thank you. It's just wonderful sitting here and just listening to everybody, and sort of I'm having this picture, I'm having this picture of walking out of my office and on Market Street, and Chuck coming out of his office, and it's like you never, even though we were all really busy all the time, you never passed Chuck in the hallway in the office without some kind of conversation. And all the words that people are using, I think, they really apply to Chuck. But there were two things I wanted to add. One is that we use word like kindness. Okay, Chuck was really one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. But he also had a tremendous inner strength, and that isn't necessarily the word that comes to mind right away, but there was something about, he had an inner strength that kept moving him forward all the time, through difficulties, through good times, and he was so even keeled. He was unflappable. If he were a boat on a roiling ocean with 40-foot waves, that boat would not be, you wouldn't see that boat rock at all. That's what he was like. It was an extreme privilege for me to know him and to be able to work with him.
I'm on mute. Judith, would you like to follow up? You have to do mute. Unmute.
No thanks.
There we go.
I said mine. I'm visual. I'm not verbal. I would snuggle and pat Chuck.
Great. All right, Judy. We have Judy. Cynthia, we don't have Judy.
Judy Goddess isn't here.
Sure. Karen, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I would love to. I got to know Chuck initially, I think, when I first started, because we had, we were doing the basics of mediation, and I was told we needed role play coaches. So I was reaching out to the resources we had, and Chuck was one of them. And his first response was, whatever you need, I will do it. I'm thinking, oh, this is great, because I really didn't know my butt from my elbow at that point in time, excuse me. And so as time progressed and I got to know Chuck better, and of course it was all in person, and if somebody fell out as a role play coach, Chuck said, let me know. And so, and he was a great person for a new role play coach to shadow. And then as time went by and we would have board meetings or mediator meetups, I get to talk to him in person and sit down and really get to find out what an amazing person he was. I mean, I am not a trusting soul. So when I'm hearing somebody say these things to me, and I'm thinking, no one can be this good, really, just can't be. But Chuck really was amazing and gentle and a good listener, a very private person. And he was, as curious as I might be, I would ask a question maybe, and Chuck never, ever said anything. He just was somehow very clear on his boundaries, and I really appreciated that. And so I got to get to know him just more and more and more. And then, one of the last role plays that we were doing, after he was, and I didn't know, and I had sent out an email and didn't hear back. So I called him and he told me that he had been diagnosed. And I said, was there anything I could do for him? And so he said no, because I think his sister lived nearby. And I said, whatever you need, you let me know. And so what I would do is I would call him from time to time. I'd send him a card. And what I told him was, he had the most amazing, optimistic spirit. He just felt that everything was going to be okay. And it always felt good, so I just feel like I got to know him on so many different levels, and so grateful. And the one thing I didn't pick his brain about was his pet mediation. We talked about it, but not in a whole lot of depth, because that was his particular area of expertise. And so I just want to say, like everyone else, I'm going to really miss him, his gentle spirit, just the depth of his character and his kindness, so rare. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Ken, we would love to hear from you.
I don't know that I'd have a whole lot more to add, particularly because so much has been said. Again, he was an exemplary model for community participation, but just also the whole system of values that community board espoused. He was that guy. Always accessible, always, again, kind, patient. And Jim said, he had strength, and he really did. And he was also just very, very encouraging. So being around him to me was just always felt good. But again, back in 1977, he was among the first group of people I met. He was there. He was sort of the foundation along with the staff. So we didn't see a great separation, because the skills he brought, he just wasn't on the payroll, but he was every bit as essential as any paid staff member. So anyway, he was a great guy to be around, a great teacher and a great role model.
Thank you so much. Krista, do you want to add on here?
Sure. Well, I mentioned that I met Chuck early on because I did the internship with he and Rita Adrian in Visitation Valley. And he was really, there was a mediation that I was not yet trained, but as an intern, I was observing a mediation that he was a trainer for, and I was very moved by how the people. It was a barking dog dispute, interestingly enough, and there was just so much that came out in the context of the mediation, so many feelings that people had in so many different interactions, and people really were able to feel heard, and unfortunately there wasn't a good resolution, but it was just so powerful to me. And I was so moved that I actually got up and left the room before the end of the mediation, because I was tearing up and I didn't want them to be wondering what was wrong with me or be distracted by me. And I went to the bathroom, and anyway, then afterwards I came out, and Chuck really wanted to check in with me. And he really wanted to make sure that I processed what I needed to do with this experience. And I let him know that it was just very powerful for me to see people engaging with one another in a genuine way and learning from one another in a very difficult situation. And I could really empathize with everybody that was there, and he was just so present with me, and it was a very powerful experience. It's funny that it's making me tear up now. Anyway, I wanted to share something that I happened upon. Chuck was a Facebook friend of mine, and neither of us posted a great deal on the platform, but I recently looked back at Chuck's timeline and was quite struck by his last post. It was a share that I'm sure he intended as a statement of his appreciation for others in his life, but it reflected to me and to commenting friends on his own impactful role modeling. And it read, "Every now and then, a person with no agenda, no ulterior motive, and no self-interest will take pleasure in helping you succeed, grow, and live your purpose. This person will operate in love, will seek no praise, and will want nothing in return. This person is a gift." And I believe that having had Chuck in my life, in our lives, is a cherished gift.
Thank you. I think I personally am about to cry, so it's really moving. And I would love that quote. If you can send that to me or post it, I would love to have that. Maybe we can add it to our pet mediation.
And if I could add something, Christy, you're absolutely right. He was describing himself. He may not have known that, but he was describing himself, because you never suspected that Chuck had any other agenda besides helping you do what you were needing to do.
That's right.
It's so beautiful. Selena, you want to come in?
Thanks, Krista. I've got to follow that up, huh? Yeah, that was beautiful. I mean, I just had a bunch of different thoughts. I don't know if I have a particular story. I probably echo what a lot of people have already said. The things that when I think of Chuck Regal, I think of his being such a great listener. And I know I wrote this and it might seem like, yeah, we know that obvious, but he really was. He could be so busy. He could be so stressed out. But if you said, hey, you got a minute? He would always take the time for you. And really, he somehow he would do it. And he really would give you his unwavering attention. Just like all the stuff we talk about in active listening, but he just had this. And if you remember Chuck, he always, he never aged. That was an aside. He never seemed to age. He always looked like Chuck. He always reminded me of Dick Clark. And I don't know if it was sort of the hair kind of thing, but he just never seemed to age, even if I've seen him over the years. And anyway, when you would engage him, he would always he'd look at you with this like he's just giving you, pouring like all of this love and attention. He would have these like really concerning eyes. He might go like this, and it just, you always felt like what this powerful gift that you're receiving, that it might seem it's not anything you can buy in this world, nothing that you have to like buy stock in for. It's just people to people contact, and he was great about that. I also thought that Chuck was very funny and very humble. Whenever he would do a presentation, I know we've done some presentations in the community before, whether it was to the police or a program, and he would tell like stories about how some of the cases fared out. Like he would talk about some of the cases, and he would just be so, I can't even describe it. I wish I could have a great way, but he just would be so funny. He would say it in such a like an ironic way, and he'd be so funny. And then when I would tell him how funny he was, he wouldn't even know he was funny. Those of you know him, you know what I'm talking about. I will say something that Shelley mentioned. You know, he was always so nice, but there was one time where we were driving, where Chuck and I were driving. I think we were going to lunch near Irving Street, and we're talking, and he's so, you know, kind, pleasant Chuck. And then all of a sudden he turns his head out the window and he starts yelling at somebody out the window, because I think somebody was trying to take our space or something. But I was just like surprised. I mean, but in Chuck, that was like nothing compared to what I normally see. But I mean, just so surprised, because he would, I've never seen him raise his voice or anything, but I think he was like, hey, you know, what are you doing? We're trying to get this space. And it was just so funny, because I'm just so used to seeing him kind, professional, but you know, he's a regular person like everybody else. And you know, he was a great trainer. He was so encouraging to me. He's also encouraged me to join mediation panels. He's written letters of recommendation. We were friends. I will share this one last personal thing. When we used to work in the office together, I'm not sure, was his background Irish? Do people know what his background was? Was he Irish or French? Or in any case, sometimes we would kind of break into this Irish accent kind of thing. I'm not Irish, but we would just kind of break into it, and he'd start like giggling, and then he'd start breaking into it with his deep ha. You know how Chuck would do his ha, and then he would start to do this back, and it was just sort of a special, cool thing that we would share. So anyway, I'm just really glad that we could all be here to honor him. He is one in a million, and yeah, just so great to see everybody, and glad we can remember him together.
Thank you so very much. I want to pass this to Shelley.
Okay. So, you know, I won't add much. You know, I think we all, if you knew Chuck, you knew what a special person he was. You know, basically, you know, I think like Selena said, he could get angry if you needed, if it was appropriate for him to be angry. I think he was very capable of being assertive if that was necessary. You know, there would definitely be panels where people would be, you know, they would be like getting a little chaotic, and he could really, you know, get everybody to be quiet. He had a pretty straightforward voice for that. But I loved the way that he really encompassed, you know, the best of both masculine, feminine qualities. And he was very capable of being very strong and assertive, but he could also be so gentle. And so like, I remember panels where, you know, most of us on the panel in a very sort of angry panel, where most of us were like, okay, this isn't going nowhere, and we just have to kind of give up on this. And where he would really be able to stay with it. He was so present and able, when he could see there was still more there, he would say, now just wait a minute, you know, let me I want to keep going with this. Let me ask you a question, Mr. So-and-so, you know, so he was so, he just had a emotional capacity to be able to, like everybody said, listen. He had that such attentive listening skills, and he could just hear when it needed to be like an assertive, like, hey, you know, stop, you know, we can't continue this, or like, no, we need to stay with this, and let me ask you one more question. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. He could really be calm in the midst of chaos, and go deeper and into something that really warranted it, even when the rest of us might be giving up on it. And then he could also have very firm boundaries when, like, you know, somebody was getting aggressive and, you know, being start almost scaring people, and it would feel like it was going to get violent or something. He could really shut that down. So he just had the best of all human qualities. He would be like, if I was from another planet and I wanted to take a human specimen of a person, you know, of the human race, I would say, okay, take Chuck Regal, because he could represent humanity. And I'd be good with him representing humanity to some alien creatures. So that's it from me.
Thank you so much. I love that last statement about him being a superb human specimen. Terry, and then Cynthia.
Thank you. I'm having sort of a history emergence experience here. Just thinking all these things. Most of you actually knew Chuck better than I did. So, and I go back, you know, way. Like I was, like one or two others, met Chuck initially 1977, probably around there when I started in Bernal Heights. And certainly many of the things you said, I'll call out some of the notion about inner strength, kind and patience. All that stuff is just certainly resonates. I mean, you can put them on the walls, you know, you can put the language and attach it and it goes into Chuck's name. And face. And so absolutely. And I remember, such as it is, you know, this is a while ago, 1977 or so, but I remember having a feeling that Chuck understood something about the deeper senses of community boards, what it was, the potential, what it should be, and all that seemed somehow linked to me and consistent with his own soul deep nature. There was something about who he was and how he saw the world and what he understood that kind of, this is a step thing, maybe to some extent. I don't know exactly, but it always struck me, you know, his life taught by example, servant leadership, but his very active involvement with community boards. And I will say, you know, while I wasn't there at the time, well, I can give Chuck credit and admiration for many, many different things. I would imagine, though I was long gone, that period of time where he and Rebecca Iverson were co-directors, or I forget the name, co-executive directors, co-directors, must have been a very stressful time. And I give credit to him stepping forward. And, you know, I don't know, I honestly don't know this, so I'm speculating beyond knowledge. Whether that was the job he most wanted ever to be in some ways, but he did the job, you know. And now I'm speculating only, but you know, he was an amazing guy with many talents. And among them, as someone very elegantly said, he's a great representative of humankind. And the fact that he went, and I'd forgotten the part about his own pets, his cat. But I remembered obviously about the pet mediation thing. And I always thought that all beings thing is completely consistent with Chuck. You know, as an attention to all human life, all life forms, not just humans, seemed completely right to me. Anyway, I can offer little compared to what you folks are saying in your own experiences, but I'm very, very happy to see you all and to be here.
Thank you so much. And I want to pass this to Cynthia to sort of tie up and segue into sort of our final wrap up. But before, I know if people have to leave right at 4 p.m. because that's what it was slated to go to, we are inviting everyone to stay afterwards. We're sort of having a virtual reception. So there's no immediate, you won't get cut off at 4. Please stay on and be free to chat and catch up. So Cynthia.
Thank you, Marjorie. And before I say anything, I want to ask Tor. Tor, did you want to add a few comments? Can you unmute yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, just a few. Actually, it's good to see you. Actually, Cynthia, it's actually really good seeing you. As well as Terry Amber. I'm sure Terry probably maybe slightly remembers me.
I remember you, Tor.
I remember you, Tor.
Yeah, I know you do, Jim. I was like, wow, blast from the past, really. Selena. Matter of fact, I think Selena and I sat on a panel together with Chuck. It's funny. I'm listening to her and I'm like, wow. I'm gonna make this real brief. Like I said, Chuck was just a really, we'll bring him up to modern times, a really just cool dude, cool cat. Very understanding. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? He's very encouraging. That's what I was looking for. He'd always be like, you know, just do the best you can with every panel you had. And then when I actually worked in the office and was trying my hardest to get everything done, he would always have this thing where I would always go, well, have a good one, Chuck. Thanks. He goes, good man, good man. You know, he was always that kind of person that would always give you the kudos and the just the whole praise of, you know, knowing that you're trying, and he would see that. And he was always like, good man, you're trying, good man. Just try harder. You know, but he would never give any kind of bad feedback. It was, you know, but yeah, it's good to see mostly like there's some people in here that I haven't seen or met. But for the most part, it's good to see everybody. Like I said, it's been a blast for Krista. I remember working with Krista. Yeah. So like I said, it's just good to see everybody. Hope everybody's staying safe and being good.
Okay, so thank you, Tor, and thank you, everyone. I want you to know, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I think this is, Chuck did this. Chuck did this. Chuck brought us all together. Marjorie is going to tell us, I don't know what the date is, but this is Community Board's 45th year, their 45th anniversary. And for me, what stands out about the brick and mortar generation, of which most of us who are here today in this session are a part of that brick and mortar generation. And I think that what Chuck typified and exemplified was this profound belief that we all believe that we could live peace in everyday living, that it was possible, and that was the brilliance of Ray Shonolds, that he believed in each individual's capacity to bring peace and exercise peace in everyday living. And so I just say bravo to all of you for being here to honor Chuck. And I hope that when we come to the point of honoring the path of community boards and what community boards stands for, has stood for 45 years, that we'll all rally once again. Tor, you are the youngest one of us. I mean, you started when you were 14 years old, and other people were interns in their college years, and we've all grown together, and together we weave a fabric of hope. And I don't want to take time now for the Kudo board, but during the reception, I'll show you the kudos board. The kudo board is really important because this is our opportunity to convey to Chuck's family about who he was and why he was important to community boards and to the field. But also, the kudo board is for all of us. There's memorabilia on there. You can post pictures, and we'll keep the kudo board active for you to post more until the end of the month. So do stay for the reception, and I love you all. Thank you. Each one of us carries different pieces of the puzzle, both of community boards and who Chuck Regal was. Together, it's important for us to bring these pieces together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And like I said in the beginning, I feel that my collaborating with Cynthia has been so illuminating to who this person was that I didn't have the honor of meeting. And then hearing all of your wonderful words sort of made the composite of who this person that I did not meet was and what he means to community boards. And this has been a tremendous and very beautiful history lesson. So thank you all for contributing. I wanted to take a moment to, as Cynthia said, this is our 45th birthday year, our anniversary, and I want you to stay tuned because we have the 11th Peacemaker Awards coming up, as well as our auction, and there'll be 45th anniversary activities and festivities as much as we can muster them online. We'll be trying. So you'll be hearing from me, and maybe even a personal outreach from me as well, because these stories are so fantastic and I just want to mine so much information from all of you, maybe perhaps to create some material for our 45th anniversary celebration, if that's something that you would be available for. Again, as I said, we are welcoming you to stay on the virtual reception. If you have some champagne, crack it open. If you have your favorite mocktail,